Okay, we're here for the 5th day of our levain propagation, and there's a couple of big changes in our recipe for today. First of all, you can see that my levain, after the second feeding on the 4th day, has really gone a little crazy. So what we're going to be doing now is what you're going to be doing every day or every time you feed it after today. So the proportions today are 12 ounces of flour, 8 ounces of water, and 4 ounces of the levain starter. Again, I'm going to be cutting this down. I'm going to use half of that so that I don't have to use quite as much flour. So I had to actually put ice in my water in order to get it down to 60 degrees. So the first days we were using 85 because we wanted wild activity. But now we're cutting that down because we'd like to get some bacteria that are going to produce a lot of acetic acid. So the recipe calls for 8 ounces of water. I'm doing half. So I'm now getting 4 ounces of water. Okay. And then I'm going to uncover this rather big, burly, gassy situation from yesterday. And I need to just take 2 ounces of that. I'm going to have a bit extra today. Again, you can do whatever you want with the extra. Ooh, smells delicious. What a big change from yesterday, the smell. And again, that's because we're trying to define the bacteria and the yeast that we're using. So I'm going to take this. Sorry, I'm trying to get it in the camera. I'm going to mix it up a little bit. You can see how much air was in there. It's very gassy. I'm going to mix it up, and then I'm going to, not sure what the best way to do this on the camera is. Let me move that in. I'm going to scale 2 ounces. So you see today, when you do it on the 5th day here, you're going to have some extra. We're trying to avoid waste, but we have to keep feeding and discarding, otherwise we're going to have mountains of levain. So now I have the 60-degree water, 4 ounces of water, 2 ounces of levain, and I have my flour already scaled off. This is 6 ounces of flour. So the ratio is 3 to 2 to 1. Flour, water, levain. So this is the point where we are switching from a liquid levain to a stiff levain. We'll get into more about why we're doing that as we go on in this unit, but you'll notice it's a completely different consistency. So I'm going to actually proceed with my hand. It won't be possible for you to mix with a spatula and get a good mix. So I'm going to mix this with my hand. It's quite easy, but I would say the key is don't separate your fingers. Use your hand as a paddle and just press the dough, press the levain up against the sides. There's no specific amount of time that you need to mix this, except you need to make sure that you have the whole situation, the whole dough smooth, because there's a lot of flour and not as much liquid. So as opposed to the previous 4 days when it was just real easy to mix up with a paddle, this one you're going to have to work it a little bit. So you see, I mean, if I'm doing it slow, I'm just pressing it and folding it over on itself. And it doesn't take much more than this. So this is day 5. This is the end of the recipe in the text. This levain is not quite ready to use. It's not, it needs to be trained some more time at this recipe. So what you need to do for the next 5 days, keep it outside and feed it each day in this proportion. Actually, keep an eye on it. When it's fully ripe and vigorous, you feed it 2 times a day. But at the beginning here, it's probably going to take a while to reach full maturity, which is about triple in size. So you're going to cover this, you're going to let it sit at room temperature, and you're going to feed it again tomorrow using the same proportions. 3 parts flour, 2 parts water, 1 part levain. So that's fine, it's nice and smooth. You see I moved up, I changed the size of my bowl. I'm going to need a little bit more. I'm going to grab a scraper real quick. I'm going to need a little bit more space. I'm going to need a little bit more space in my bowl because this is a slightly different recipe. It has more in it. So I'm going to scrape the sides down so it's nice and clean. I'm going to cover it and let it ferment. Okay? You need to do this for 5 days to get your levain quite vigorous. If it's very vigorous and it's ripening quickly, then you'll need to feed it twice a day. But leave it at room temperature and use 60-degree water. And just a reminder, this is all the levain I had left over. You can do whatever you want to with it. I myself cut the recipe down because I don't want to use very much flour to do this until I have bread ready to make. But this portion of the levain is discard. And that's it. We'll talk about it more in lecture.